Welcome to our new website, our new brand, talknorth.com. We're kind of expanding our network, and this that you're listening to is the Cheryl Reeve Show, the first Cheryl Reeve Show. We've had Cheryl on as a guest before. This is the first show that is hers. I'm Jim Suhan. I'll be moderating. I'll be setting you up. I'll be putting the ball on the tee for Cheryl. But this is going to be about Cheryl's career, women's basketball, the Minnesota Lynx, and society in general, and media. We're also going to talk a lot about media, why we cover what we cover, why I do what I do, why people should yell at me more than they should yell at you. We'll get into all that as well. But check out talknorth.com. Go to... And, we have a bunch of new shows. Cheryl Reeve Show, Throw the Boss Out, which is kind of our business philosophy show, which is, frankly, way more entertaining than I could have imagined a business show being. Soccer with Malice, Craig Malice's new soccer show. The Flow, which is our millennial show. You got to serve the millennials. So we have a couple of millennials on the network doing just that. But let's get to the news of the day, Cheryl. Lindsay Whalen. I mean, it's one of the bigger stories you can have in Minnesota sports or in the world of women's basketball. How did it come about? How clued in were you? And what kind of advice did you give Lindsay?
Well, to say it was a whirlwind was an understatement. And, I give a lot of credit to Mark Coyle and Julie Manning over at the University of Minnesota. Oftentimes in women's sports, when there's a position open, the AD is maybe not as on it as they would be if it was a men's program. I hear often an administrator on the men's side might have a short list of people that as soon as the opening happens, boom, 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 the wheels are in motion, and next thing you know, there's a hire. I haven't seen what Mark Coyle did in the women's game very often. So Marlene Stallings made the announcement, I believe, Monday at 2:30 or so, that she would be leaving the University of Minnesota for Texas Tech. And honestly, it was within the hour of her departure that I heard from Mark Coyle.
Wow.
And it was about, hey, we'd love to, have your input. And so I only had one name for them. And, I just said, I hope that Lindsay would be a strong candidate, strongly considered. And so, it was about, hey, let's get in touch with Lindsay and see. And honest to goodness, within 24 hours, she had already interviewed. So that next morning, she was in front of a committee and interviewing. And like I said, it moved fast. By Thursday at 2:30, there was an announcement that Lindsay was going to be the head coach. So if you can imagine the process of going through that, if you're Lindsay, number one,
mm-hmm.
this was her first go around. She heard the rumor on Twitter that Marlene might be departing. This was over the weekend, and so she contacted me and said, "Hey, what do you think?" And I said, "Well, let me investigate the rumor." And went to my sources, and it looked like it was real, but it wasn't done. And so Lindsay said, "Hey, Coach, do you think I need a resume?" So it was that moment of, I've been playing professional basketball for 14
right.
years. I've never had a resume. And so, at the same time, Lindsay's, trying to, still get her workouts in, that sort of thing. But she's trying really, really hard not to think about this Minnesota thing. But all of a sudden it got really real, and she was prepared. I'm really, really proud of her, how she handled this process, and in a hurry, got her resume together, got her thoughts together, and just kind of figured out, why would she be the next, great coach here at the University of Minnesota. And I think once she kind of got her mind, around it, I think it was very surreal for a long time. And a long time, those few days, I think she said she lost, 4 or 5 pounds through the week, because she was just so excited. And when you're excited, you can't eat. And so, yeah, it was, for me, I just wanted her to, be confident in herself. And know that it's not going to be easy for anybody, so don't think that somebody's going to come in here and have an easy time. This profession is a tough profession. Yeah. It's a profession that's highly competitive in its coaches, and the sport has evolved immensely. And so, she has to kind of get her mind around that she is good enough. And, you haven't, made decisions on your own. No, you haven't stood up on a sideline and decided what plays, that sort of thing. But being a point guard for, most of her life, that you're calling plays. And so I told her not to, overcomplicate things. The game is actually pretty simple. And first and foremost, I think being a sort of a CEO, if you will, of the University of Minnesota women's basketball has got to be her mindset. There's a lot to be done. You don't want to be too much in the weeds. So you got to make sure that you get yourself a really good staff. So that's first and foremost. And I know that was something that Mark and Julie were really targeting, with her, to make sure that, with the inexperience, we probably need to have some people in here that maybe have done it before. And so I know that they're working really hard on that and getting good people around her. And then it's, I told her first phone calls are, you got to call recruits, because one of the reasons why people think that I'm halfway decent is because I got really good players. And so without really good players, most of the best coaches aren't the coaches that people think that they are. And so, it's one of those things that there's a lot to be done. And I told her there's not going to be enough hours in the day. You're Coach Whalen, and then you're also the point guard for a really good team. So, there's a lot going on in her world, but I just was so proud of her, how she handled it, culminating with an offer from President Kaler on, I believe it was getting my days mixed up. I think it was Wednesday night. Thursday, worked through the contract. Thursday was announced, and then Friday had a press conference. So just an unbelievable week for Minnesota basketball.
For me, it's a logical move. It was going to happen eventually, probably, and because I know Lindsay very well, and I know how much she's worked with you and how she thinks the game, it's easy for me to be positive about this. The blowback I've gotten is that, hold it, you're telling me that somebody who's never coached before is now going to be a Big Ten coach for a team that went to the NCAA tournament and is going to succeed? What do you think the right answer to that mindset is?
Well, I certainly understand.
It's logical.
And so I would say that I wouldn't necessarily feel this way about everyone. I think that the lack of coaching experience is one that you go, okay, well, how can we minimize maybe the drawbacks of having not done it yourself? First things first, I already said this to Mark, I said this to Lindsay, she's going to make mistakes. Every coach that takes over for the first time makes mistakes. That's okay as long as you learn from your mistakes and you quickly, identify that it was a mistake and be able to move on and improve. But I think, what we got to was, and this was my mindset in talking with Mark, was that, what are you going to do? You're going to bring in somebody that was maybe a mid-major head coach somewhere that had some success, that's going to come to Minnesota, maybe might or might not have Minnesota ties, might or might not be able to have relationships. There is no person that is going to do more for recruiting in the University of Minnesota than Lindsay Whalen. And so, could you take a chance and go with somebody else and maybe has a proven track record? Sure. That's what Marlene Stallings was. She did well at VCU. At the end of the day, Lindsay will need some time. So let's enjoy. I say give her a couple years. Give her, meaning, to figure this thing out. She better recruit in that time, and she better, learn along the way. But the mindset, let's enjoy that we have, here in Minnesota, one of the greatest all-time sports persons, not just basketball. She's beloved in every way. Let's enjoy this and let's all get behind her. That's why I think she'll be successful. One, humility. She's going to know what she doesn't know and where she needs help. I think that's huge in any person. She's not going to come in here going, hey, I got this. Let me prove everybody wrong kind of thing. I got this. So that is, for me, that's huge, because that personality of, hey, okay, I can get some help over here with this person. I can get some help in recruiting with this, have a collaborative plan with your staff. That's why she's going to be successful. And, the stub your toe kind of stuff is going to happen. It's just going to happen. And we just have to realize that. And like I said, just be able to learn quickly.
The answer I've given to people who have asked me the question is, if you bring in Marlene Stallings or Brenda Freeze and they have some success, there's really no guarantee they're going to stay here. This is a stepping stone job for those kind of people, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's the profession. You got to seek the right place, and compensation matters. And this is frankly an expensive place to live as well as a cold place to live. Marlene Stallings is going to live like royalty in Lubbock on what she's making. I've been to Lubbock, Texas. She can buy Lubbock, Texas for what she's making down there. Lindsay, if she has success, and I expect her to, ain't going anywhere.
That's exactly
I think that's
right.
a big deal.
That's a huge deal. And I think just kind of steadying the, kind of the rocky waters that have existed in recruiting in this state. There's a lot of good players in this state. Lindsay's going to be able to kind of right that ship, so to speak. And, I think, Lindsay's going to have the mindset that every player matters, not just when I need the great player that I come around Minnesota and go, here's Paige Beckers. Let me go talk to them now. Well, where were you when, there's a long list of players that maybe aren't, being, recruited by top 5 schools in the country, but have a role on your team. I think it's about building relationships and, being ready when that time comes for you to land the big one. And, I think that Lindsay's really, really smart that way. And I just don't think there's anybody that's going to be able to make the inroads the way that Lindsay will be able to.
As people who have listened to the MNSPN podcast network, which is now Talk North, know we have really good people. We have experts on for every sport. This is obviously the ultimate expert on women's basketball. We intend to hit all the big topics across the nation, as well as with the Minnesota Lynx and local women's basketball. We'll also talk about other sports. You're a big sports fan. You can speak knowledgeably to what it's like to be a coach in other arenas as well. If you'd like to advertise with this show, reach me at jsouhan@startribune.com. I'll put you together a sales team. We expect this show to do very well. I recommend getting in early on that. So this is your first draft as the clear-cut basketball boss. I always had the sense that you were the person calling shots no matter what anyway. But what was it different this year just because you had the title?
It was. I would say that in years past, as you mentioned, so for 8 years, I have been a part of every decision and have done a lot of the legwork in whether it's draft prospects, free agency, that sort of thing, and just formulation of the team. There's something different about, sitting in a meeting and having to, create every scenario, try to think about, okay, what trades are possible, what free agents, how are we going to handle our own free agents? I sat in those things before and had very strong opinions about whatever. It's easier to have an opinion and then to know that when the meeting is over, someone else has to go execute those things, make the phone calls, I would make calls, but my calls weren't to make actual offers or to say the words, yes, we'll do that trade. Mm-hmm. And so there's something about that, just like when you talk about moving over one seat, from an assistant coach to head coach, it's the same mindset. I never made those decisions lightly, whether you're acquiring a player or, whatever, trading a player. We never made those lightly, and it was always collaborative with our captains, and that remains the case. But I will say that, the night before, even though you in your gut, it's the right thing, but the night before that, that trade call, you don't sleep a wink. You think about every possible thing. Well, maybe this might happen. Or wait, maybe this isn't right. And I don't remember thinking that way in years past. And so now I have 2 seasons that I don't sleep, the on season and the off season.
Have you had conversations with other general managers about how to handle this role?
I have. I tell you what, this has been such a fun off season, and I just think about life and how it happens. So, for me, just, say organically, the timing is everything. That I have had such a great time in working with Roger Griffith, our general manager of the Lynx, for many, many years, and we had a great relationship, and we played off each other well. But then, when this happened, I had a chance. Rick Spielman attended a Wolves game, and he and I spent some time together. I've been in the company of Thad and Derek over with the Twins, by attending the Dunkers, breakfast meeting that they have, and I tell you, these guys are so gracious in that. Oftentimes I'm faced with, well, you're coaching a women's sport, and you just don't get the, sort of the respect or clout maybe, with some of those coaches. And I have not been treated so well as I was by these 3. And in addition, we have internally our own in the Wolves staff, Noah Kroom and Scott Layden on the Wolves side that I've been able to tap into. And I just want to, it's not so much that that they can make the decisions for you. I just want to make sure that I'm thinking of everything. Mm-hmm. And, what's important. We sat in a meeting, I was struggling to kind of make sense of some things and, a contract that we just didn't want. But how do you lose that player? Because you want that player. It's a very difficult choice. And, do you go, well, do you do it for a little while? But if you do it, you're handcuffed for 2 years. And